Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about putting people as our focus, and we had a great introduction to that yesterday with our Rogue Water folks and some of the panels talking a lot about stakeholder engagement, and that is my sweet spot. So I want to start today with a bit about what's keeping your utility leaders up at night. So American Water Works Association does an annual survey of top things and concerns in our industry that we need to be paying attention to. And in 2018, this was the list. And you're going to see a number of things on here that will look really familiar to you. But what I want to make sure that we talk about is these 5. So out of those top 10 issues, half of them are people issues. And we can't engineer or finance our way out of these. So why is it that we have people issues showing up on the top 10 list? Because it hasn't always been that way, by the way, that we've been doing these surveys for many, many years. And I would say in the last 10 years or so, that's when we've seen those people issues arise. And I would submit to you that there's several things going on in our industry and our environment that are creating this kind of feeling that, gosh, we need to do more with people. And one is, our infrastructure is not just needing to be repaired or replaced, it's frankly failing in several areas. And when it fails, it creates a lot of attention. So that's Oroville Dam from 2017, which I was working at a water utility at the time. We had dams with people living below them, and it scared the bejeebus out of us. And we got calls from people who lived below that about, hey, are you guys inspecting this? And of course we were, and you all are, if you've got this going on. But it does kind of call to mind that infrastructure that's always been there may not always be there, and what are we doing about it? And so the other photo you see is that thing that you see on the news fairly regularly about main breaks happening, and then your crews have to go out in the middle of the night when it's dark and cold and fix that, and cars fall into holes, and it makes great fodder for social media. That's all happening, and it didn't, we've always had infrastructure issues, but we're reaching a point now where it's actually failing. And then we can't ignore all the water quality crises that we've seen. Now, Flint is the poster child for that, and that's just frankly a tragedy, and there were some criminal things that were happening there that we know about now. But there's a lot of other stuff going on that's impacting how people feel about water services. So PFOA and PFAS, the perfluorinated carbons that are out there, that's a really hard word. That's why we use the acronyms for that. Cryptosporidium is an issue now. We've got Legionella going on in buildings with Legionnaire's disease occurring at a rate that hasn't been happening lately. We thought we had that one nailed. Chemical spills upstream of our water supply. And then just generally concerns about there's something in my water, with the incidence of cancer clusters and people looking into research through social media. There's a lot of kind of buzz about this, for sure. And that buzz is happening on social media. And we've seen social media explode. We're all aware of that. But what you need to know about social media is it really does empower consumers. And they want to go to social media to get information probably before they're going to go to your water utility. And that's a little bit concerning. So just a few facts, if you're not convinced yet that this is a place that you need to be. 90% of the neighborhoods in the United States are on Nextdoor. And I work with utilities that sometimes we can reach more people through Nextdoor than they can through email, because they simply don't have email addresses for their customers. 47% of Americans use social media for customer service. So if they're trying to reach out to you on social media to tell you there's a problem instead of calling you, that can happen if you're not in that space. 2/3 of Americans get their news from social media, even though they admit they are really concerned about the accuracy. We've all heard a lot about that, but they're going out and seeking that. And 18% of Americans get their news only from YouTube. Who's getting their news only from YouTube? Okay, none of you, but it's happening. I submit it's probably younger folks, but that is happening. And what's happened in this environment is that when we have a story about water, and it's never a really good story, but those stories have a very short lifespan, but they can spread far and wide, and it makes it feel like this is happening in my community too, even though it probably isn't. but it makes it very pervasive for our communities. And we have citizen journalists, and you probably are all aware of your professional citizens that are covering you now with blogs. They carry weight, right? And they have visibility, and they have followers, and we have to pay attention to them now. And even our regular journalists that work for newspapers and television stations, did you know that when they go in for their annual evaluations, part of that is how many times they got clicks? It's true. And so that makes having sensational headlines and photos and sharing that kind of information a little bit more challenging than it was in the past. And if you have any doubt about this, you can take a look at Google Trends. And Google Trends, for those of you who don't know, it's a tool. You can go in and you can type in your search term. I typed in, is tap water safe? And you pick a number of years. This goes back 10 years. And you can see the upward trend of people searching for this. And they're probably searching Google before they're calling their water utility about this. And that's concerning. But we want to make sure that if they do happen to call their water utility, that you're showing up very positively in that.